Hello everybody, my name is Paul, and I've been involved in software engineering and management for the last 35 years. One of my greatest pleasures is teaching and coaching others to develop their engineering skills. Today I'm going to walk you through installing Docker on your Mac. This is the first in a series of videos that will eventually have us creating an API in .NetCore with a backing database to add, modify, and delete content. If we have that, we can do just about anything in regards to creating websites and creating applications. Now, in order to do that, we'll need to set up a few pieces of software. If you have Docker, MySQL, Postman, VS Code, and .NetCore already installed, then you can just skip this video and the videos on how to set up MySQL and how to set up Visual Studio Code. Just move straight along to the scaffolding and EntityFrameworkCore solution, and we'll see you there. Okay, for the rest of us, we still need some software. Namely, we'll need Docker. This will allow us to download a database so that our API has some content to expose. After Docker is installed, we'll download a MySQL image. This is a Docker image. The reason that I'm choosing MySQL over SQLite is that there are some differences in the syntax of the two databases that wouldn't allow us to easily switch back and forth from development to production. Now remember, I'm an engineer and I want to share some best practices along the way so that we can build durable, maintainable solutions. Part of that means is that I want to be able to run this in my development environment, wait until it's as good as I want it to be, and then go ahead and publish it to my production environment. And if these two environments are similar to one another, it just makes that process a lot easier. Next, we'll download Postman. This is a tool that lets us exercise our API. We'll also need an IDE, Interactive Development Environment. For that, we'll use VS Code. The biggest reason that I use VS Code is it's fairly lightweight and it's free. We all like free. Visual Studio has a free version and there are valid reasons to use that or even the JetBrains tools. I have nothing against those tools. They work fine. I just use VS Code, and so these tutorials will also use VS Code. The final tools we'll need before we write our first byte of code is the .NetCore framework. Microsoft's been creating the .NET family of tools since 2012. The first several versions only worked on Microsoft platforms or PCs. In 2016, they started creating the .NET Core platform. This started to include non-PC platform capabilities, and currently .NET Core is on version 3.1x. The next version will be .NET Core 5, and from then on, Core is the only framework that'll survive. So there'll be no more Microsoft .NET frameworks. It'll just be the .NET Core. With the Core framework, we can now write code once, and that code can run on just about all platforms. The most notable will be PCs and Macs, or Linux. Once we have these starter bits and bytes, the tools themselves allow us to pull in more software that we'll need as we move forward, and it becomes much more easy. Okay, let's get started. Our first step is to see if we have Docker installed. To do that, open up a terminal session, Command Space, type in terminal and hit return. My go-to for seeing if I have something installed is to type toolname -- version. I'll use Fred for my tool name. If I get a response, great, I have that tool name. If the tool name doesn't exist, you'll get a message, command not found, and then the tool name that you just tried to put in there. Okay, now that we know Fred is not installed, let's check on Docker. Docker -- version. You'll see that I got a response, so I have Docker installed. Okay, thus endeth the lesson. Wait, just kidding. If you didn't get a version response, you'll have to download and install Docker. We'll head over to the Docker website, and you can see that I'm showing the Why Docker page. This is a good read and will help you understand the advantages of using containers. Again, I stated above, it allows you to isolate yourself from how to set up the infrastructure and some of the things that you'll need that you're not really going to develop. You're not writing the database. You didn't write the database code. You don't need to be able to be an admin of the database. You just need a database. You're going to write the code that acts upon that database. Right in the middle there, we have a big blue button to download Docker Desktop. I use Docker Desktop to give me the convenience of using menu options in the status bar to stop, start, monitor Docker. This brings us to the Docker Hub, and we see a few options. We'll choose the Mac variant. But if you are following along on Windows, that will work just about the same. I'll have both links below the video. Now we see a Get Docker button, and we can download that. This will take a few minutes to download, so let's explore the Docker Hub. As you can see, we can download SQL Server if we wanted to. Look, we can download Cloudera. This is a Hadoop distributed system, so when you talk about big data, most of those people are using some form of Hadoop. If you were in Azure, you'd be using a similar system, and if you were in Amazon, the AWS is fairly close to that process. We could use Anaconda. This is a package I use to play around with Python. Ubuntu. This is a popular version of Linux if you wanted to experiment with that. By the way, .NetCore runs on Ubuntu, so you could create a server there and just stand up a website right there with your .NetCore code. When you have a chance, you should explore some of these images and tools in your spare time. Okay, our download's ready. I'll select Show in Finder, then I'll double-click the DMG file. Now we just drag this into our applications. I'll not do that as I already have Docker installed, but you should just go ahead and drop that into your applications. Okay, I'm going to quit Docker now so that you can see how to start Docker, and we'll go through the same pieces. Now that it's stopped, this is where you can start following along again. We need the Spotlight tool again, and we'll type in Docker and go ahead and run that. As you can see in my status bar, the whale is showing some animation, and if we open up the menu bar, we see that Docker is starting. When the animation stops, we should now see that the status is running. Okay, if you stuck with it this far, give yourself a pat on the back. You now have Docker installed and running on your Mac. In our next video, we'll get Postman set up. Before you go, if you found this video helpful or liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Also, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like to know when new videos are uploaded. You've been great, and see you at the next video.